You've got the princess of a reality TV dynasty, the one who never really seemed to want the crown. And then you have him, the tattooed punk rock legend who survived the unimaginable. On paper, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker just don't make sense. So what is the real story here? Is this some modern fairy tale about two people finding healing together, or is there something much, much darker going on? Let's get into it.
And this, right here, is where the whole story gets so fascinating. Just look at the contrast. On one hand, you have the princess, born into this Beverly Hills empire, who, even after spending her life on camera, seems to just crave privacy. And on the other hand, the punk rock rebel, a music icon who has lived every single one of his triumphs and his tragedies completely out loud for the world to see. This clash, this total opposition, is really the key to understanding everything about them.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll dig into Kourtney's whole journey as the reluctant Kardashian. Then, we're going to jump into Travis's incredible story as the survivor rock star. After that, we'll see how their worlds finally smash together, look at the messy reality of their blended family, and then we're going to tackle the big one. Is this relationship about healing, or are they just doomed to repeat the past?
Okay, so let's start with Kourtney, because to really understand her today with Travis, you absolutely have to understand where she came from. Her entire personality has been forged in the fire of her family's drama and a decade of a very, very public and chaotic love life.
Kourtney's story really kicks off here. She was just 12 years old when her parents' divorce became this huge public spectacle, and as the oldest kid, she really felt it the most. While the rest of her family started building their empire and leaning into the fame, Kourtney started pulling away. She sided with her dad during the split and later during the O.J. Simpson trial, which created this distance with her mom that you could argue never really closed. All that early trauma seems to have planted this deep desire in her to just escape the spotlight her family lived for.
And then came Scott Disick. For more than a decade, their on-again, off-again thing wasn't just a relationship. It was a primary storyline on a hit reality show. It was this relentless cycle of pure chaos, right? Cheating scandals, explosive breakups, emotional reunions, all while having 3 kids. And this was all happening while Scott was very publicly struggling with substance abuse and going through the horrible tragedy of losing both his parents. Kourtney was his rock through so much of it, but by 2017, she'd finally had enough and walked away for good.
Now let's switch gears and talk about Travis Barker. His past is also completely defined by trauma, but man, it is a whole different kind of story. His life has been a series of the highest highs and the absolute lowest lows you can imagine. So Travis was basically a prodigy. He gets his first drum kit when he's just 4 years old. But his life took a tragic turn early on. Right before his mom died, she told him to follow his dreams in music. And boy, did he. His talent was just off the charts. I mean, the story is legendary. He filled in for Blink-182's drummer by learning their entire 20-song set in under an hour. With him on the drums, their album Enema of the State sold 15 million copies and made them one of the biggest bands on the planet.
But with that level of fame came some serious demons. His marriage to Shanna was so explosive it got its own reality show, Meet the Barkers. And it was just a whirlwind of accusations that are still flying around today. Shanna has said for years that Travis had an affair with Kim Kardashian. Travis, on the other hand, accused Shanna of being a bad mom on their own show. The one thing he does own up to in his book, cheating on her constantly, even the night before they got married. It's just a complete mess with no easy answers.
And then in 2008, the unthinkable happened. This number, this isn't just a statistic. Let it sink in for a second. 65%. That is how much of Travis Barker's body was covered in third-degree burns after the plane he was on went down.
It is impossible to imagine the kind of agony he went through. He had 26 surgeries over 11 weeks. The pain was so bad, he was calling friends from his hospital bed and offering them $1 million to just end his life. This quote, it just shows you how deep into despair he really was. The crash killed 4 other people, 2 of his best friends and the pilots. He and DJ Am were the only survivors, and then DJ Am tragically died a year later. Travis was left with debilitating PTSD and a fear of flying that kept him off a plane for 13 years. But this absolute rock-bottom moment also became his salvation. It was the one thing that finally forced him into sobriety and a new, clean life focused on his health and his kids.
So now you have these 2 people, both completely shaped by years of public drama and intense private trauma. Living in the small bubble of Calabasas, California, it really feels like it was only a matter of time before their worlds finally collided for good.
You know, their story wasn't some instant spark. It was a really slow burn. They were just neighbors for years, starting back in 2017. Their kids were friends, they'd hang out, that's it. By 2019, rumors started swirling, but they denied everything. Then, in 2021, boom, they go public, and the relationship just goes from 0 to 100, leading to that massive wedding in Italy. But here's the plot twist. Travis later admitted he had a huge crush on her for years, and actually moved to our neighborhood just to be close to her. Pretty wild.
But, you know, getting together might have been the easy part. Trying to merge their two very famous, very complicated families, complete with very vocal exes and kids stuck right in the middle, well, that has turned into a constant source of public drama.
And Travis's ex-wife, Shanna, has definitely been the loudest voice here. She feels like the Kardashian family has been responsible for ruining her family not once but twice. First with that alleged Kim affair, and now with Kourtney. In her eyes, her family has been totally ripped apart by their influence.
But then, and this is where it gets so complicated, you hear a completely different story from their own son. Landon Barker has gone on record to praise Kourtney, saying she's really stepped up and played a mother's role in his life. This huge divide between mother and son just puts the family's broken loyalties on full display for everyone to see. Their, let's call it, unconventional family dynamic has led to some really strange moments online. Remember that Christmas back in 2021? Travis's daughter, Alabama, posts a video of her gifts, and in the middle of all the designer stuff, she holds up some pricey lingerie and says her dad went a little crazy. The internet basically exploded, questioning how appropriate that gift was. Alabama then had to clarify that Kourtney was the one who picked it out, and Travis just paid for it, but it really showed how blurred the lines had become in this new blended family.
And it's not just the family drama. The public is completely fixated on the change in Kourtney herself. I mean, her entire vibe has done a 180, from Calabasas chic to full-on punk rock. She even said that when they first got serious, she basically just started living out of his closet. Now, for some people, that's a sign of this epic, all-consuming love story. But for others, it looks like a huge red flag that she's losing her own identity in his.
So, all of this brings us right back to the central question that follows them everywhere. Are we watching two people who have finally found real healing with each other, or are they just replaying the most toxic parts of their past, just on a much bigger stage?
For the critics, the warning signs are definitely there if you're looking. There was that one scene on their show where Travis really seemed to be pressuring a reluctant Kourtney to go running, and a lot of people called it controlling. There's also the undeniable fact that she's pulled away from her own family since they got married, and even their super intense, constant PDA. It looks eerily similar to how Travis acted with his ex-wife during the rockiest parts of their marriage. And then you throw in the rumors of cheating, which are always there, and you can see why some people are worried.
So in the end, it all comes down to this one question. What are we really seeing here? Is this the story of two survivors who, after a lifetime of pain, have finally found a safe place with each other? Or is all the obsessive affection, the identity shift, and the family drama just proof that they're repeating their worst patterns, but this time in front of the entire world? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.